For generations, the people of Burkina Faso have lived with the burden of unreliable electricity. Blackouts were not occasional disruptions. They were a defining feature of daily life. But today, the nation stands at a turning point. The government has announced the construction of the largest power plant in the country's history, a 150-megawatt thermal facility on the outskirts of Ouagadougou. This announcement is far more than a technical detail. It is a statement of intent. For a nation where millions still wait to simply switch on a light bulb at home, this project carries the weight of transformation. It promises not only to illuminate homes and cities, but also to mark a decisive step toward energy independence and national sovereignty. For decades, Burkina Faso has struggled to provide for its people's energy needs. Small stations were built, one after another, but they could never keep pace with growing demand. Imports from neighboring Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana offered a temporary lifeline, but they also reinforced dependence. Each shortage abroad became a crisis at home. In effect, Burkina Faso's energy supply was controlled by decisions beyond its borders. The new plant changes that equation. At 150 megawatts, it dwarfs previous facilities and sends a clear message. Burkina Faso is no longer willing to be defined by shortages. It is choosing self-reliance, demonstrating the courage to take bold steps toward true independence. Officials are presenting this project not as a patchwork fix, but as a historic milestone. Optimism among citizens has already grown, and across the continent, observers are asking, if Burkina Faso, with limited resources, can undertake such an ambitious project, then what excuse remains for wealthier nations that still wait for foreign assistance? The lesson is unmistakable. Progress does not begin with perfect conditions. It begins with decisive action. Energy in Burkina Faso has always been about more than electricity. It has been about freedom. Dependence on neighbors was not only costly, it was precarious. Hospitals risked losing power in the middle of the night. Factories shut down when cross-border supplies were interrupted. Families could not trust that electricity would be there when needed. True sovereignty requires energy sovereignty, and that is precisely what this project represents. The 150-megawatt facility is more than an infrastructure project. It is, in essence, a declaration of independence. It signals that Burkina Faso will no longer wait, will no longer depend, and will instead light its own path. To understand the significance of this announcement, one must look at the long path that led here. For decades, Burkina Faso advanced step by step, building modest plants in Bobo-Dioulasso, Ouagadougou, Kosodo, Kona, Fada, and Ouahigouya. None were large, but each was a testament to resilience. Every brick laid was an act of defiance against despair, a declaration that the nation would not simply wait for rescue. Those small victories laid the foundation for today's bold leap. The symbolism of this moment extends far beyond Burkina Faso. For too long, African nations have been told what kinds of energy projects to pursue, when to pursue them, and under what conditions. Many governments spent years negotiating donor requirements while their people remained in darkness. Burkina Faso has chosen a different path. It has acted. The sight of construction equipment breaking ground is proof of resolve. In a world saturated with speeches, the act of building becomes the truest expression of progress. Energy, of course, is not just about engineering. It is also about political power. Every megawatt generated within Burkina Faso is a shield against dependency and a step toward dignity. By producing its own electricity, the nation is no longer in the position of a petitioner. It becomes a producer, and that shift changes how its citizens see their leaders and how the world sees Burkina Faso. Earlier plants, such as the 22-megawatt Ouagadougou station or the 55-megawatt Kosodo extension, were important but limited. The new facility, by contrast, has been designed with modern technology that improves efficiency and reduces emissions. This is not a return to outdated methods. It is a forward-looking project that balances present needs with future responsibility. It proves that Burkina Faso is not merely adding power, but adding smart power. The regional implications are equally significant. For years, the country's reliance on imports left it vulnerable to external pressures. With greater domestic production, Burkina Faso becomes harder to pressure and stronger in negotiations. The new plant, therefore, is not only a technical achievement, but a diplomatic asset. It strengthens sovereignty both at home and abroad. This does not mean Burkina Faso has rejected outside help. Partnerships have been managed with care. The West African Development Bank supported the Komsilga plant, and German engineers contributed to the Kosodo extension. These were strategic collaborations in which Burkina Faso gained technology and resources without losing control. The new facility will likely follow a similar model. Open to partnerships, but firmly on national terms. Independence is not isolation. It is the ability to make choices from a position of strength. Critics in Western capitals often argue that African nations should limit themselves to solar, wind, or hydroelectric power. Burkina Faso's leaders have given a clear answer. The people need reliable power today, not decades from now. Thermal plants, though not flawless, deliver that reliability. This does not mean the country has abandoned renewables. Quite the opposite. The Zagtouli solar farm is already the largest in the Sahel. What Burkina Faso is building is a hybrid model: thermal energy for stability and solar for sustainability. This is not a contradiction. It is a strategy. The lesson for Africa is clear. Do not wait for ideal conditions. Build with what is available, and improve step by step. Burkina Faso is moving from dependency to influence, from being a consumer in the regional energy market to becoming a producer. That shift alters the balance of power in West Africa. A country that generates its own electricity is not easily marginalized. It becomes a player, not a spectator. Beyond the regional implications, the symbolism for the entire continent is powerful. For too long, Africa has been described as a continent of shortages, dependent on external solutions. Burkina Faso's bold move challenges that narrative. It declares that African problems can be met with African solutions. If one of the Sahel's poorest nations can make such a leap, richer countries have no excuse for delay. This project also carries profound meaning for Burkina Faso's youth. The country is young. The majority of its citizens are under the age of 25. They seek education, employment, and opportunity. Without electricity, their future is constrained. With it, everything becomes possible. Each megawatt produced is a tool against unemployment. It powers schools that can teach, factories that can hire, and hospitals that can heal. In this sense, the 150-megawatt plant is not just a technical achievement, it is a promise to the next generation. Of course, challenges remain. Thermal plants require imported fuel, and reliance on diesel brings vulnerability to global price fluctuations. Extending electricity to rural areas will also require time and significant investment. These obstacles are real, but they are not insurmountable. Burkina Faso has endured far greater trials and emerged stronger. This project demonstrates that even in the face of difficulties, progress is possible. In the final analysis, one truth stands firm: power is sovereignty. By daring to build this facility, Burkina Faso has made a profound choice. Independence is not given, it is taken. And in this act, the nation has shown that courage and determination are as essential to sovereignty as borders or constitutions. The 150-megawatt plant rising in Ouagadougou is more than an engine of electricity. It is a beacon of dignity and self-determination. Its light does not stop at Burkina Faso's borders. It shines across Africa, reminding every nation that sovereignty begins with action. Burkina Faso has acted, and in so doing, it has inspired a continent.